So this is the current internal application that everyone approves. When we get a purchase card application, we enter that information into our old Access system, and we produce this internal application form that we send to the PAs over email. They then approve it, and they adjust the dollar amount and the date range, can review the restrictions and mark those appropriately, and then they send it back to us approved, or they would reject it. And so finance is integrating our existing P-card database with front end. This process will go live tomorrow, and we will be sending internal applications through front end instead of this Word or PDF file over email. It'll just be an approval through front end, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. So basically, this is a test version of the front end database, and you'll be familiar with this. This is the main screen, so you'll see the award system, payroll, other subsystems. So I'm going to hover over other subsystems and select P-card management in the drop-down menu. This is how we get into the new P-card database. This will be your first new step. This is what it's going to look like for a project administrator. Right now, I'm signed in as a project administrator into the new P-card management system. What would prompt you to come here is an email notification notifying you that there is an application pending your approval. So go under Application, the application section of this page, and you select View Manage Application, right where my mouse is here. That brings you to this page. Here you can either search by name, or you can search applications pending your approval, or there's a search all applications that is a general queue for applications pending approval of any project administrator. For this case, you would go to Search My Applications on the left. Clicking that brings you to this queue. All applications in this queue are pending your approval specifically. The project administrators and assistant project administrators in that group would be seeing this queue. So I'm going to select this first application here. This is an existing card application. You can see the purchase card and the last 4 digits, the amount requested, the PRSY role. They can be an authorized signatory or a PI. All this information is actually pulled directly from the award system. You'll review the restrictions. First thing you need to do is click Edit, and then you'll be able to edit the parameters of this application. Now I can go to the restrictions and select alcohol as non-allowable. I can select equipment $5,000 and over as not allowable, flowers. I can make travel restricted, and I can review the rest of these options here. I'll see that the GEO approval stamp is here. This just marks who actually signed off on that application. So in this case, let's say the application said John Smith. It was signed John Smith on the grants officer approval signature line. Then it would say John Smith here. If it was a different grants officer, it would say that name there. This is grayed out, but it'll say who ends up approving it. This is grayed out. I can't edit this because it's system generated. It'll say what date you as a project administrator actually approved this application. Over here we have college, project, sub-object code. This is their 3-digit login ID, PA requested end date. So you're going to be able to change this to be whatever the effective date that you want associated with the card is. You can just change it here, but it needs to be within the budget date pulled from the award system. If the budget date pulled from the award system is not far enough in the future, you should reference the award system and make the necessary adjustments in the award system before making the adjustments here. So let's say that this was too far in the past. It's August 31st, 2020. But you want to make the effective end date 2021. Well, before you do that here, you should really go back to the award system and extend this budget end date in the award system first. Here you can make adjustments to the dollar amount, the effective end date requested, the restrictions, and if you need to make a special comment, this wouldn't be necessary for your average case, but if there's anything extraordinary you'd like to comment, you can enter it here in the memo log at the bottom. Now, referencing the internal application, those 3 things are the most critical here. The dollar amount requested, the restrictions, and the requested effective end date here. So those 3 items, it really comes down to those 3 items. You'll see that those 3 items are reflected here. Dollar amount, effective end date, and restrictions. And so this page, although it seems unfamiliar to you, is really just a mirror of the form that you're used to working with on a daily basis, the internal application form. And so once I've made all the adjustments necessary, I'm going to click Save on the far right here. You get a pop-up, the application information was updated, and then you can approve or reject this application. So in the comment box, if anyone has any questions so far, you can enter them now. Okay, looks like we have a comment here.
Yeah, I was saying we don't enter the Koali number in here, the encumbrance
So
number.
actually, that's a good question. So currently, whenever we process applications in our existing process, or we do increases for purchase cards, we require encumbrance docs from the PAs. The P-card administrators in finance always require encumbrance doc numbers. And so this new system is no different. And so right here, you'll see an encumbrance doc number field. And right in this next step, you're going to see how that works out. When you click Approve Application, you get a reminder to enter the encumbrance doc number right here. And you can either enter the encumbrance doc number and click Approve, or you can cancel to back out if you still have something you need to change. So let's say I didn't mean to click Approve. I click Cancel, and now I'm right back here. And I can continue to make modifications and adjustments to the application before I'm ready to actually approve. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Sure.
Alexis has a question. Will PAs only be able to approve the applications?
Well, most of the people accessing the system will either be PAs or APAs. Basically, in SIS, they developed a list for us of everyone that should have access to the system, and they'll be categorized as an administrator or an approver. If someone that shouldn't have approved something does approve something, luckily there's an audit trail being kept right here in the approval workflow, and it's a reportable field, and so we would know who approved what and when. It should only be PAs approving the applications. If somehow someone approved something that wasn't supposed to, their name would be reflected in the audit trail in the workflow.
I think the question is, can APAs approve this?
Yes, APAs
The answer
and
is
PAs.
yes, right.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. We got a question. Can we update the PRSY if it has the wrong one? So no, you can't update this PRSY. This is an application for this PRSY. The way the system actually works is we receive a P-card application from the cardholder at purchase_card@arccuny.org, a traditional purchase card application. We then will enter it into front end. We will submit this application. It only lets us submit the application to projects associated with this cardholder in the award system. So if this person is not listed as an authorized signatory or a PI, we won't even be able to submit the application in the first place. So we're selecting from a drop-down menu of projects associated with this cardholder, potential cardholder, in the award system. So we can only submit from there. But if we submit an application for a project, they would have already been listed as a PI or authorized signatory. If this is not the PRSY that you want to approve, you can reject it. But you can't change the PRSY because it's an application submitted for that project specifically. Sure. So I'm going to go ahead and approve this application by clicking Approve. And so at this step, consider this your prompt to go into Koali and generate an encumbrance, a PE entry. So you pause here, you open Google Chrome or whatever web browser you use, create that encumbrance doc, copy and paste the doc number, and go back here and paste it here. So in theory, this could be an encumbrance doc number. Once I enter the encumbrance doc number, I click Approve on the left. The new application was approved and the PRSY record was created. So what that pop-up meant was this is no longer going to be considered an application. And I'll show you what I mean by that on the main menu. I'm going to click Exit right here. So now you see the application section. You'll no longer be able to find that record in the application section. Now that it's approved, it'll convert into a PRSY record. So it'll be in this section now. things pending your approval will be in the application section because they're still considered an application. But once approved by a project administrator or assistant project administrator, they get converted into a PRSY record. So it'll now be here. So I click View Manage PRSY, and I would be able to find that record here. Or another way to find it is if I click Cancel. I can also find it by going to View Manage Contact. So I can click View Manage Contact up here in the Contact section, and I can look them up by name. You can use first name, you can use last name, or any combination of the two. If there's more than one person with that name, just like all the other systems in front end, it'll give you the options. So there's only one Brian Ziegler, so I was able to go straight here. The personal information, just like in the other systems, is actually censored here, and the basic work information is here. And I can go into this corner here, and I can see all open applications. We have some more applications we're going to be using as examples today, or I can find the example that we just approved, which was 948500101. That's this last one right here. This is the open application we just approved, and you can see it's no longer in open applications. It's now in PRSY because it's approved. So I'm going to go to PRSYs, and I'm going to click on the one we just approved. And now we can take a look at all the details here. And you'll notice that the encumbrance doc number is now reflected here. Does anyone have any questions at this time? Okay, so now we're going to reject an existing card application. So I'm going to click Exit here, and I'm going to go to View Manage Application. And again, these are two different queues. This is Search My Applications. This is going to show all P-card applications pending your approval group. The second option, Search All Applications, this is going to show you all applications currently pending approval in any group. This allows for different groups to cover for different groups depending on if someone's out or on vacation or someone needs coverage in some way. That's the purpose of this second box. But we're going to look at Search My Applications on the left to see the P-card applications pending my specific approval group. That brings us this queue, and we'll move on to our next application. The next one we want to approve is 948500201. And so you'll see, again, this is an existing card application. What that means is a certain population, known as the Phase 2 group, has multiple projects to a single card. And so this is a new application, as you see here, a new open application for $2,000 for this PRSY, but on this existing card ending in 3984. So just like the previous application, I'm going to click Edit on the far right, and I'm going to adjust the parameters appropriately, check marking the restrictions that apply, reviewing the dollar amount to see if it's acceptable within the budget, and reviewing the PA requested end date right here. This is when you're saying that the spending should cease. If you want a later date here, again, you need to make sure that it's within the budget end date. So if the budget end date needs to be later, go into the award system and extend the budget end date appropriately, and then you can come back here and adjust this farther in the future. If this is acceptable the way it is, that's fine. But if you need this further in the future, it's pre-populated with the budget end date. First, extend the budget end date in the award system, and then come back to the P-card system. You can set this however you like. And then you see the grants officer that signed off on this application. You can see the date they signed off. You can see the date that this was sent to your queue. And then once you approve it, the system will populate this field with the date that you approve the application. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save. And when I click Save, that doesn't make it approved. That just means I've made all my adjustments. I saved my adjustments. You still need to click approve application or reject application. Any questions? So again, this mimics the internal application process. That's what this page is here to do. So I'm going to go ahead and reject this one. I reject this application. I get a notice to enter the reason for rejection. You can really say anything with the test reason. You would just enter your reason here. This will be included in the email notifications. So I'm going to click, you can click cancel to go back if this was a mistake, or you can click reject application. For this example, I'm going to click reject application to reject it. This application has been rejected. So once I hit exit on the far right, you'll notice it has the test reason in the memo log here. Once I click exit on the far right, you'll notice that the application queue no longer has this application. It was successfully rejected. Now if I pull up my emails, I believe we'll have some examples of email notifications. And so here, see here at the test example, is to notify you that the purchase card example for Brian Ziegler has been rejected by Matthew. And it has the PRSY, the college name, the requested dollar amount, and the last 4 digits of the purchase card. The reason for rejection was test reason. It's here that your reason will appear. And so every time an email notification occurs, all the associated parties will be notified. So the PA, the APA, the P-card admins and finance, we're all going to be notified every time a step changes here. When the application is submitted in the first place, when the application is approved by the PA or APA, when the P-card administrator receives that application, we'll then go to the bank and take the appropriate action. We'll look at your doc number, we'll increase the card, or finalize any necessary details. So I just wanted to show you this test email notification. These email notifications are an important part of the system because otherwise, how else are you going to be prompted to know when to take action, to know when to enter the system? So email notifications are important for that. So let's do another one. We're going to go to View Manage Application. We'll use a different cardholder this time. And so actually the way you don't even have to put a name here. I'm going to go back. So again, this is the P-card system. And say I'm a PA that just received a notification over email that there's applications pending my approval. I'm going to log into front end here. This is the basic menu, the main menu of front end. It's green because it's the test environment. So I'm going to go down and hover over other subsystems. I'm going to select P-card management in the drop-down menu. And that'll bring me to the home screen of the new P-card system. So again, I just received that notification over email. I'm going to go to the application section of the system. I'm going to select View Manage Applications. So all I have to do to see applications pending my group's approval is to specifically click on Search My Applications, right above where my mouse is here. Search Applications. Search My Applications. That brings the queue of all the applications pending my group's approval specifically. And so for this example, I'm going to work on 7F250 0001, this one. So I can click on it anywhere in this row. And I just want to give you a minute to just look at all the columns here. So you have sub-object code, last name, first name, application ID, that's just like a serial number for the application. That won't be super critical for you. Application status, application type, PRSY, the PA group number, that's to identify the approval group number, and then the PA name that is pending approval for. But really, anyone from that approval group can come in and approve it. And so I'm going to click anywhere within this row to open this particular application. Double click right there. Now here I am. I'm going to click Edit on the far right. That's the most important step. There's really two steps. It's really you click Edit and then you click Approve. Or you click Edit and, I mean, I guess if you need to reject it, you just click Reject. But when you're approving, it's really two steps. It's really you modify the fields and you click Edit, you modify the fields, and finally you click Approve Application. So it really comes down to those three steps. Edit. I can adjust this from 2000 to 3. The PA requested end date is fine. I select my restrictions. I review the rest of the information, and I click Save. Once everything looks good, I can click Approve Application. And you'll notice for this case, the reason I brought up this case is because there is no purchase card. This is for someone who doesn't have a purchase card yet, and they're applying for a P-card application for the first time. So in this case, they don't have an existing card, and so the purchase card number, it just says new. It doesn't give you the last 4 digits because the card doesn't exist yet. Once you approve this, it's going to prompt the finance P-card admins to enter the card information. But in this case, we just ordered the card today. That's why you're receiving this application. So we have no card information to enter yet until the bank sends it to us. So it would go, we receive a P-card application from the PI. We enter that information into the system to submit this open application to you as the project administrator. You review the information just like you have in the old system. The old process was just this internal application field you receive over email. Instead of this, we have this page, which essentially accomplishes the same thing. So in this page, you review the information, you select Edit, you make the modifications needed, and you click Save on the far right. And then you click Approve. And so currently, the multiple project single card group is ASRC in Queensboro and one individual from LaGuardia named Eric Hoffman. So that's the multiple project single card group. The multiple project single card solution will be rolled out later on for the rest of the population. But for now, if you're not a part of that group yet, you still have a single card to each project for the time being. That will be changing soon. So again, it's almost the same thing here as the other application I showed you, except for the purchase card, which instead of showing the last 4 digits, it says new. Other than that, it comes with all this data. Much of it is pre-populated from the award system, including the PRSY rule you see here. It would say PI or authorized signatory. Does anyone have any questions at this time pertaining to this approval process? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and approve this example. Clicking Approve Application in the far right. And then I'm going to go into Kuali. I'm going to make my PE entry. I'm going to copy and paste that doc number into here. Once I've done that, I can click Approve here. And we're all set. And finance has been notified that you approved this application. You'll see the status here just changed from approved, waiting for new cards, changed to that status because finance has ordered the card. Right when we sent you this application, we ordered a card. If it gets rejected, we'll cancel that card order with the bank. If it gets approved, then when that card comes in, we'll add the appropriate details here in the system. So I can click Exit here. We're all set. So basically, there's 3 sections here that you want to concern yourself with. The first is contact. Here's how you can look people up. And you can pretty much get to any other screen from here. So I'll search here. You can search by name or login ID. And you click find, and it'll pull up their profile. And then you can review their open applications. You select the one you want to look at, and then you click go, or the PRSYs, which are basically applications that have been approved by the project administrator or the APA. That's what the PRSYs are. So the open application means it hasn't been approved yet, it's pending approval, and the PRSYs means that it is an approved application, that you have approved it, someone in your group has approved it. And so that's one way to get around, to navigate the system. Another way is to go to view application, but this will only show you applications pending approval. You can see application status pending PA approval. The next way to navigate the system is to go to PRSY record, and you can click on View Manage PRSY record. Doing that will allow you to look records up by account number. You can enter it here, and you don't have to type the whole thing. You can just begin to type it, or you can use drop-down menu here to search any PRSY, and this queue is for finance, for what's pending action in the finance team. So I go here and I'll see what we need to finalize, basically, that we receive your approval and we close the loop on the entire process. We take the final action. When we take the final action, it'll say finance processor, it'll say the finance processor's name, the P-card administrator's name that finalized the process, and it'll show the date they finalized the process. So this is all test information, but essentially, if you approve it 4/19, it'll say PA approval date 4/19/2021, and then finance process date would then say the date that they acknowledge your approval and take the action with the bank to increase the card, extend the card, to set up the card in accordance with the application that you approved. They'll review all the parameters, the encumbrance doc number you left behind, the requested amount, the PRSY. In this case, this is test data, so you don't see an encumbrance doc number here, but that number would be included right here as well. And this allows us to close the loop on the entire process. So in other words, we received the P-card application from the PI as a finance P-card administrator. We received the applications to purchase_card at rfqneat.org. That's step 1. Step 2 is we enter that information into the system. In finance, the P-card administrator will click new application and will enter this information to you. So then you'll receive an email notification that an application is pending your approval. So you'll click View Manage Application, and you'll click Search My Applications to review your queue. From there, you'll select that application, you'll click Edit on the far right, you'll approve all of the parameters, all the relevant information, same information that's always been on your internal application, it's just in front end now, and you'll click Approve, and you'll enter your encumbrance doc number, and you'll click Approve. And if you didn't mean to approve yet, you would go back and click Cancel. It'll then notify finance to review the application record that you submitted and approved. We'll then see it here, View Manage PRSY record. In finance, the purchase card administrator will go here. We'll take a look at what you approved. It's now an approved pending finance PRSY record. What's the difference between an application record and a PRSY record? The application is pending PA-APA approval. The PRSY record has been approved by the PA-APA team, so that application record is now converted to a PRSY record. That's the only difference between the two. So I go here, and I go here, and I can look at, my team can look at what you've approved, and we can mark that we've acknowledged this approval and have taken the necessary steps with the bank. Once we do that, it'll mark who in the P-card admin finance team took the final step to adjust the bank record to actually increase the card in accordance with the approved details, and it'll say when they closed it. So the GO approves the application is sent to the PA for approval, the PA approves it, and then finance finally executes whatever action is necessary at the bank level and acknowledges that the PA approved it, and they take the final step to close the loop, so to speak, in the whole process. Does anyone have any questions about that? Okay, so for the first question, are you able to edit the encumbrance doc number? So you're not able to edit the encumbrance doc number. Just like when you email us back an internal application, once we receive that internal application, this is the application we have on record, you're not going to be able to edit that encumbrance doc number. Keep in mind, the way the system is today, to start off with, this is sort of our starting point. We can do more with the system in the future, but to start off with, it's really just for the initial application. So this isn't a place to keep track of all increases. Increases going forward are going to be carried out the same way they currently are carried out. This is just for the initial application, because that's what this is. This is a place to store P-card applications and approve P-card applications. But an increase is not a P-card application, it's just an increase. So increases and extensions will be carried out the same way that they've always been carried out. This is just for initial P-card applications. And to answer Cynthia's question, how will cards that need to be renewed every fiscal year be handled? In the case that it goes from 01 to 02, say it's being renewed on the next year account, that's just another application. That's just another application being submitted through this process. That is going to be entered under a new application here. Then once we submit it in finance, the P-card admin submits it in finance, you'll click View Manage Application, because you'll receive an email that a new application is pending your approval. You'll click Search My Applications. You'll see all the applications pending your approval. And in this case, for Cynthia, for the next year account, right, for the extension, say it's actually not an extension of that PRSY, but it's more of a second year account, right, that it's getting extended that way. That's going to appear like this, and you'll approve that as well. It's a separate application. Otherwise, if it's not a separate application, it would be handled the same way it's currently being handled. It'd be over email. This is just for applications. Will it be the same way for closing out P-cards as well, through the way we've always done through Quali? Yeah, nothing's changing there. For Joseph's question, nothing's changing there. Again, this is just to record applications received and give you the opportunity to approve them. And instead of approving them over email, you'll approve the applications over here. But this doesn't impact the way you close cards, the way you increase cards. The only thing, this is very limited in scope, this only affects at this time you receiving an application and approving it. It's just in that narrow scope. It doesn't impact any other actions. Cynthia, I see your question, will we need to email P-card team to issue a new card? So if they have so it depends if we're talking about the phase 2 group or phase 1. So for phase 1, it would already prompt finance to create a card. So when in our submitting this application to you, it's going to prompt us in finance, the P-card administrators, to create that new card. So if it's a new application and they don't have a card, no card exists for that person, the system itself is going to prompt the person submitting the application to you. It's going to prompt them to order a card at the bank. And so that would not be an issue unless there was fraud. If that's why you need a new card for fraud, you would definitely want to notify purchase card, purchase_card@rfcuny.org, and we would reissue the card for fraud. Otherwise, we would already be ahead of that in ordering the card as needed. Regarding earlier question, for those cards that need to be on a concurrent year. So for phase 1, if it's getting extension to the next project, if the PRSY changes that last digit, 01 to 02, we would be submitting it as a new card application for phase 1. We would be submitting it as a new card, and we would be ordering a new card. You wouldn't have to email us to do that. We would be doing that by default. Now, if it's phase 2, if it's part of a phase 2 group, multiple project single card, then we would be just attaching this project to the existing card. Does that answer your question? Yep. And again, later this year, we're going to be moving the rest of the population to the phase 2, right? So it's not going to be divided forever. It's going to be one group eventually. So that's what's going to be happening in the future. That pretty much covers that. We took a snapshot of the old Access database. It's basically where we've been storing the P-card app information all this time. So that old system would generate this internal application form that you currently approve. And so that old system, we took a snapshot of that data, and we've spent weeks, actually Charles has been working hard on this in SIS, sifting through that data to convert it and make it fit the new database. So this has taken a few weeks. So that snapshot would have been taken March 26th. So all applications, which I don't think our activity is super high right now, to be honest, but all activity between March 26th and today is going to be resubmitted through this method, through this system. And we're going to have a transition day tomorrow where we're going to be submitting all the applications since March 26th. We're going to be resubmitting those to you. So you've approved them in the old method here, but this will give you a chance to test the new system, and you'll be approving them in here. And so you'll receive email notifications. You'll be able to go to View, Manage Application, search My Applications, and you'll be able to see all the applications pending your approval. What my team is going to do is we're going to add a comment that I want you to look for tomorrow in the memo log. It's going to say transition record. It's going to say transition record. And what that means is it's not a new application being submitted to you. It's just an application we need reapproved by you because the snapshot of the old data from the old database was taken March 26th. It's taken a few weeks to prepare and convert that data into the new system. And so applications between March 26th and today that you've already approved need to be resubmitted through this system and reapproved. And so we will populate this memo log at the bottom here with transition record. That way when you approve it, you won't need to create a new encumbrance doc. So we're going to say for the transition record, you can enter for the encumbrance doc number, you can enter, for example, 9999999. And that, again, just for tomorrow will be a transition day. I want you to check the memo log at the bottom here. It'll say transition record. So when you go to approve the application for a transition record, you just put 99999 because you've already approved it. And it's just us trying to transition the data that's missed because the system, when it goes live tomorrow, will have all the data up to March 26th. So there's a gap in the data between March 26th and today. In those few weeks, we need to resubmit those applications to you, and you'll approve them in this system. It'll be your test run to get acclimated to the system tomorrow. Tomorrow will be the transition day. Does anyone have any other questions? If an application cannot be approved right away, can we hold it? That's a good question. Yes. So cancel. I'm going to go back, click exit. I'm going to click View Manage Application. I'm going to click on Search My Applications. Again, generally, unless you're covering for someone, you don't need to click on Search All Applications. It's going to give you applications for all the groups. Click Cancel here. You just want to click on Search My Applications. This is going to be what's relevant to you. And so, Cynthia, you see all the applications here. They're not going anywhere. So that's perfectly fine. They don't need to be approved right away. But please, everyone, take note that in the memo log, if we write transition record, that means you already approved it. It's just that that catch-up record. We're just trying to catch up the new system from the last few weeks. You've already approved it. You've already encumbered. So for those records, those few records where we're trying to catch up the new system, we're going to enter transition record here. So just please make note of that so you don't create additional encumbrances. Other than that, any applications you see that don't say transition record, those are real new applications. I mean, the transition records are real too, but you're approving them for the second time. You already approved them through the old method here. You're approving them for the second time to get them into the system to help us catch up the data in this new database. But if it doesn't say transition record in the memo log, that means it's an entirely new application. And so remember, when you click Approve Application to create an actual encumbrance PE entry, a doc number, you want to put that here. So that covers the entire process. It's pretty simple because it's just, again, it's just mimicking and replacing the existing process as it is with the internal application and converting it into an experience on front end, prompted by an email notification that you'll receive an email. There's an application pending your approval. This is the name, college, dollar amount, PRSY, and you can then know, okay, I need to go in the front end, check my queue, see what's pending my approval. Does anyone have any questions at this time? Millicent, do you have anything you want to add about this?
No, you've covered everything that we were looking for, and maybe you could show us where to look for the difference, like migrated data versus the current data, like where it indicates like imported from old database, right? Like in the future, when we look back the records, if we see imported from old database, that means it's imported from the old system. And then in the future, the current items going forward, we will see the actual finance processor's name. Is that correct?
We'll be using the memo log to indicate any records that we're resubmitting here.
Mm-hmm.
As for the existing data carried over, for like exit, let me click exit, let me go to view PRSY record. All the existing data, these are all approved applications from the past. There's nothing here that indicates that it's pre-system versus post-system. Other than obviously there's the date ranges. As for new applications, all applications submitted after today will be through this new system. And all applications prior to today would be imported data from the old system. Now, the snapshot, and I'll repeat this, the snapshot we took of the old database was a snapshot taken on March 26th. And so we're missing data between March 26th and today because it took all that time to prepare the data that was taken that day and convert it into a format that is acceptable for this new system. And so all the activity between March 26th and today needs to be entered into this system. So if you've approved an application since March 26th, between March 26th and today, you're going to receive that again tomorrow. And again, just reference the memo log here. The memo log is going to be what tells you if you already approved this or not. It's going to say transition record, in which case you don't, if it says transition record, you don't need to create an encumbrance. You'll click approve and you'll just enter 99999. But if it doesn't say transition record in the memo log, then you'll know that this is a new application. So let me go back to the chat box here. Are there any more questions? Because we've pretty much covered extensively the entire process.
Matt, do you want to talk about the phase 2 cardholders, the sub-object code that comes with the email notification? Or you will notify the PA, APA separately in those cases?
We're going to review and hold another meeting to explain the sub-object codes. This meeting is in the scope of just describing the database. We haven't gone active with the sub-object codes outside of the phase 2 group. What we have begun doing, which I could explain, is we're starting to set up the sub-object codes, meaning we're starting to create them, and the project administrators, some of them may receive email notifications pertaining to this. And so what we're doing is we're creating inactive sub-object codes. Inactive sub-object codes will allow us to essentially flip the switch when it's time to move everyone's sub-object codes. We'll be able to flip that switch. We're just we're setting it up ahead of time, but they're still marked inactive. And so they're not going to affect the phase 1 PAs and APAs for phase 1 users. It's not going to have any effect on them yet. When it does, we will make an announcement, explain further. But basically, for those of you that are just hearing about sub-object codes for the first time, when you create a PE entry in Kuali, and I'll open up Kuali to give you an example. When you create a PE entry, you always populate the object code 8260. This is something that you already do. And so all you're going to be doing differently when we move everyone over to phase 2 is populate the sub-object code with the ID here in the system. I'm going to show you. With this ID, see A09. It also says it here, sub-object code A09. When you create the encumbrance at that time, and again, I don't want to confuse you because this doesn't apply to you yet. If you're phase 1, if you're just a PA, APA that's not involved with ASRC, you're not involved with Queensboro, I don't want to confuse you because tomorrow we're going live with this database and that does not change anything for you involving sub-object code. But later on, what Millicent is describing is we'll be implementing sub-object codes, and what that means to you is instead of just entering 8260, you'll enter 8260 and the sub-object code here. It'll be a 3-digit ID here when you create an encumbrance. Now you might be wondering to yourself, what does that do for me? Well, what that does is when you go to the web report, you'll see $10,000 for that project. But when you click on that encumbrance on 8260, it'll give you a second page, and it'll tell you, well, out of that 10,000, 5,000 of it applies to John, and 5,000 of it applies to Melissa. So it uses the sub-object code as a way to itemize the list. So it goes 8260, there's X amount of dollars on 8260. Then it'll break it down. How much of that applies to someone with this sub-object code? How much of it applies to someone with another sub-object code? So basically, it itemizes your encumbrance. So you'll be able to see how much of a grant applies to each individual cardholder. So for projects that have multiple PIs, multiple authorized signatories, multiple PIs, this is going to simplify your life because you're going to be able to know exactly how much applies to each person. So anything else? Anyone have any questions or concerns? Like any questions about the database here?
I can't make it stay up with the mic.
I'm sorry? What was that? You can hear me, right, Melissa?
Yeah, I could hear you. I think that was Sherry.
Okay, thanks.
I don't see any more questions in the chat, so.
Yeah, me either.
Thank you. Thank you. I guess it's a wrap.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, that covers, I covered every, yes.
For those PAs that do have to phase 2, that what you were just explaining, this will go live for them tomorrow too, right? In terms of the sub-object codes when they do their encumbrances.
So interestingly enough, the sub-object codes should already be live for them, for those phase 2 groups, ASRC, Queensboro. The sub-object codes should already be live for them. So when they go to their project, they'll be able to see their encumbrance on line 8260, but they can drill down. They can click on that encumbrance, and it will lead them to a second page that itemizes itemizes it further than that and shows how much the subtotal applies to each person. It'll show them the subtotal for each individual cardholder, PI, or authorized signator.
Okay.
So unless there's any more questions, I've showed everything I was looking to show to you today. We'll be going live with this tomorrow. If you have any questions, let me know. It's fairly simple. It's just, your existing internal application that you already approved in the email is now moving into front end. But again, if you have any questions, let me know. Don't forget to click edit here before you try to make it. It's not going to let you do anything until you click edit on the far right. I'm already expecting some questions on that because you might forget. So again, just remember, click edit before you modify things, because otherwise it's not going to let you modify. You'll click here and say, I don't know why it's not letting me select a restriction. You just want to click edit first. So other than that, we're going live with this tomorrow. You're going to have a whole lot of applications coming to you. Some of them will say in the memo record, transition. That means we're just trying to catch up with our data. You've already approved it before. But if it doesn't say transition, then it's a real new record, and you'll want to create that encumbrance doc. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Matt. When you have the link ready, can you please share with me, and then I could share with the staff who didn't attend?
Oh, yes, 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 sure, no problem.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.